In this video, we're going to tell you more about how a certified academic language therapist can support your child's social emotional needs while undergoing dyslexia therapy. If there is anyone who understands how crippling the social emotional impacts of dyslexia are for our children, it is a dyslexia therapist. In our profession, we have a term that we refer to as the dyslexia iceberg. Just like an iceberg, the impacts of what we see in children, such as their struggles with decoding, fluency, and comprehension, are only about 10% of the struggle. It's what lies underneath that is the bigger piece of the problem. I host a podcast in which we interview people to learn their stories of dyslexia. And I have yet to interview someone who has told me that they didn't have crippling self-esteem issues, low confidence, and anxiety surrounding aspects of school. As therapists, we see our time with our kids as an opportunity to help address some of this. No, dyslexia therapy is not intended to be a mental health therapy session, but it is a time to interact with someone who has empathy for their struggles. We have a powerful opportunity to help teach the children that they are far from alone, regardless of whether or not they feel like they're an island. Some of the ways that we try to integrate social emotional work in our sessions are: 1. Give dyslexia a name. When a professional can give their struggles a name and explain how their brain functions, it gives it a why. Doing so can provide some normalcy, commonality, and union to their experience. It can make them feel not as alone, and most importantly, help them start to believe that it has nothing to do with their intelligence, as they likely have been telling themselves. But unlike adults, kids don't just want justification. They want someone to listen to their feelings and acknowledge that they're valid and heard. Of course, their parents have likely already explained all this, but it just lands differently when it's coming from a dyslexia professional. The second way is that we explain their neurodiversity and how therapy will be different. There's nothing wrong with the brain of a child with dyslexia. It's neurodiverse, meaning it works differently. When we can show them exactly how their brain works with reading and illustrate the reason they have been feeling so dumb is simply because they have not been taught literacy in the way their brain processes language, it can be a huge aha moment for a child. Next, we need to explain the why behind the work that we're doing with them so they understand we're trying to create the needed neural network to change the way their brain processes letters so that it can start to process it like a neurotypical reader. When we have done this, it can help to provide more buy-in to the process of relearning all the components of the English language. This is especially important to an older student who thinks that pieces of this are babyish or who's already fed up trying something new. The third thing that we can do are check-ins, self-talk monitors, and teaching them to focus on their strengths to build their confidence. As adults, we're familiar with the inner voice, and that inner voice is often our biggest critic. Well, guess when we learned that inner voice? You got it when you were younger. Childhood failures and their resulting negative self-talk is where that inner voice was born. And it is a script that they started to replay well into their adulthood. And no one's inner voice is a bigger critic than someone with dyslexia. Maybe kids have made comments to them about their reading, and that has become how they see themselves. Others' negative words and actions became a mirror, and they carry that mirror throughout their lives unless, as adults, we teach them to break that mirror. As a parent or a therapist, we all are too familiar with that mean voice and that mirror, and it's the last thing we want for our children or our students. We want to teach our students to not stuff that stuff down. Let the voice out. Give the voice a name and a face. During dyslexia therapy sessions, it's a great time to do that. One of the activities I used to do with my students was to draw the inner voice, give it a name, and document what it says. Once we've done this, we can have 5-minute check-ins with our student to hear what that voice is telling them and work on rewriting that script. As a therapist, we can start to teach our students to begin to stomp on him, sometimes even physically as we act it out. We start to make that voice smaller and smaller until hopefully he goes away. But part of helping him go away is to replace that ugly inner voice with a new, more positive script. We help them to see their worth, but the positive script has to come from somewhere though. As parents and therapists, we can help point out all of the child's strengths and really play them up. This slowly leads to self-confidence, and not to give you all of my secrets, but fake it until you make it is one of them. When we replay positive scripts in our head, we actually start to internalize them and believe them. Some days that quick check-in is listening to that inner voice. Some days it's simply listening to their experience and helping them to give a name to their emotions. And some days it might simply be an affirmation because they aren't really feeling particularly emotional. But making it part of our routine is important. Consistency and dependency is important. Of course, it is supposed to be a quick exercise that is far from the core of what we're doing in dyslexia therapy, but these small actions go miles in building both trust in the relationship and self-confidence and self-worth in the child. The fourth thing that we can do is goal setting. There can be a tendency for people with dyslexia, who generally are great at seeing the big picture, to not be able to see the small wins that help them achieve that goal. And remember, creating a new neural network for literacy is a marathon, not a sprint. So creating a ton of smaller milestones and celebrating them while still visually seeing the path can be very powerful to a child. This way, we're celebrating all the time versus feeling even more defeat that they're so familiar with. And the fifth thing is teaching self-advocacy. Self-advocacy is a powerful tool that can help us all in life, but especially for a student with dyslexia. Knowing who we are, what we need, and how others can assist in that is always help in life and in all circumstances. But that comes with self-awareness and confidence, both of which are not easy for our children in their adolescent years and their childhood. With trust, time, and opportunity, therapists hopefully can bring attention to all these areas for the student and strengthen them to the point where dyslexia no longer feels like a negative trait, but something that they not only confidently own about themselves, but also lovingly embrace. At this point, they have the foundations to be ready to educate others on dyslexia and speak up to their teachers when they need more from them, such as their accommodations when they're not being implemented. Therapists can teach the importance of and value of self-advocacy, and that is a trait that will positively bleed into all areas of their life. When you work with Dyslexia on Demand, you can trust that our expertise, our individualization, and therapeutic programming set us apart. Please visit us at dyslexiaondemand.com for more valuable information such as this. And please like and follow so that you can see our videos right when they come out.